This year's Women of Achievement Awards honor 10 extraordinary women for their service and volunteer leadership. We'll have that story next on City Corner. I'm Steve Potter and welcome to City Corner. 10 women were recently honored in St. Louis for their community leadership and their service. And later in the program, we're going to meet two of this year's honorees. But first, I'd like you to meet Alice Handelman and Suzie Nall. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Women of Achievement is an organization and an honor, I guess, that started back in 1955.
Correct.
Would you talk a little bit about the history? I think the Post-Dispatch originally...
St. Louis Globe Democrat.
Globe Democrat.
That is no longer with us,
Right.
but the St. Louis Globe Democrat, Duncan Bauman, came up with the idea that there was always a man of the year, and men were being honored. And he felt that women were making an extraordinary difference in the lives of people in St. Louis, and why not honor them? And he put together a committee, and that's how Women of Achievement began.
And then it evolved over the years, kind of became its own organization, Suzie, right?
Women of Achievement is the oldest ongoing organization that recognizes women for their volunteer efforts in the greater St. Louis area.
You are both past recipients, because I think to be on the board, you have to be a past recipient, right? So talk just briefly, if you would, Alice, when you received your award and what category that was in. And
For sure. Suzie and I were both honored the same year, 2002. It was a great year. I was honored for services to older adults. I'm the past president of the Foundation for the Mid-East Area Agency on Aging, where we do everything in our possible capacity to help older people and to keep them independent and in their homes as long as possible.
Suzie?
I was honored in the area of early childhood education, and for my volunteer efforts really were focused on young children, and more specifically program development with early childhood programs and the teachers who work with those young children.
So how does it work? You have all these different categories. Do you choose women that you want to honor and then create a category for them? Is that how it happens? Or?
We create the category after we select the women. The selection process is incredible. Each year, there is a committee of 12 women of achievement from different classes. And since we started in 1955 and we're 59 years old, we have a lot of classes of women of achievement. So we have 12 women who sit on a committee, and they take the 130 or so nominations, and they cull it, and they study it, and they have a book with these nominations, and they keep it for a week, and then they meet and they choose 25.
What we think is really important, Steve, about the selection process is that it's very fair, very systematic, and very professional. We try and reach out to the wide geographical range of the St. Louis area, as well as all the categories that Alice talked about. So our women are honored in a vast array of areas, from health advocacy to social justice, to culture, to education, to the arts.
Well, you say the St. Louis area. I think that's important to bring out, too, that you're including women in the Metro East.
Yes.
We are. Women across the river who have been instrumental in doing art in the square. The people in St. Charles, a woman a couple of years ago who had a food pantry in her garage and parked her cars on the street.
I think an important distinction, listening to Alice say that, and back to your question, Steve, about selection, is women are selected, 10 women each year, for their efforts in leadership outside their professional responsibilities. It's for they've demonstrated a commitment to enhancing the St. Louis area through their voluntary work.
Well, you say it's a fair process, and I don't doubt that at all, but it's got to be a tough one.
It's a tough process. I mentioned that there were 12 women of achievement, former women of achievement, who called the group of 130 or so to 25, But then we take our platinum sponsor and our gold sponsors, and we pick people in the community who are leaders. And we have about 19 people every year who take the 25 finalists, and they narrow it down to the 10 selected women who are honored at our luncheon each year.
Well, why don't we identify those 10 women right now? And we have photographs of each of them, and we can talk a little bit about them.
Certainly.
As they come up. If you'll just take a look at the screen. These are the 2014 Women of Achievement honorees.
Diane Levine, and
Diana is being honored in the area of health and education. She's committed to our community's most vulnerable, the homeless and the hungry. Specifically, she has volunteered as a case manager for St. Louis Effort for AIDS.
We'll go to the next one.
Virginia Braxs. Virginia is an immigrant, and Virginia talks about how the importance of arts and culture for the Hispanic community is so important. She came to the United States for her education and has continued doing and being there for not just everyone, but particularly the Hispanic community in St. Louis.
And we'll be talking to her in the
Of
second half of
course.
the program. Let's go to the next honoree.
This is Dr. Eva Frazer, and her area for which she's being recognized is community health, and all she has done to providing health care for the neediest in the St. Louis area.
And Dr. Frazer will join us in the second half of the program, too. Let's move along to the next honoree, Women of Achievement.
This is Ida Early. Ida is a member of the staff, I could say faculty, at Washington University. Ida is a professional woman who is in charge of, she's secretary to the board of curators of Washington University. She is in charge of their commencement program, and her volunteer efforts, she is the first African-American woman who is president of the Junior League of St. Louis.
Let's go to the next.
This is Terry Grieg.
No, Shaw.
This is Joanne Shaw, and she's been recognized in the area of health advocacy, and it's through her efforts that the St. Louis area has advanced in cancer treatment. And more specifically, she has supported young people with this terrible disease.
One of the things that she has done is she has a project where they make blankets that are given to young people with cancer. And she talked at the Women of Achievement luncheon just recently about how when some of the cancer patients have passed away, how their siblings have called her, the parents of the siblings have called and said, our son died, but his brother and sister want to sleep with the blanket, and thank you so much for making it possible for us. She's an incredible lady.
Wow. I think our next nominee is number 6, if I'm correct.
This is Linda Shear. Linda is being recognized in the category of child welfare. Linda has dedicated her life to the well-being of newborns who are in need. And Linda has served as a foster parent for over 40 young children in her own home.
And our next nominee? I should say honoree, not nominee. They've already been nominated.
Virginia. This is Virginia Braxs, and this is who I just talked to.
I know.
And Virginia is being honored for, in the Hispanic community for cultural leadership and sustaining the arts.
Let's go ahead.
Pat Whitaker. Pat is being honored for civic leadership in St. Louis. She has served on many boards in our community and feels that it's so very important for board service to make St. Louis a better place to live.
I think we have 2 more.
This is Phyllis Langsdorf. Phyllis's category is creative philanthropy. And Phyllis, through all of her volunteer efforts, has raised money for St. Louis arts organizations, such as Craft Alliance, the Sheldon Art Galleries, and the St. Louis Art Museum.
And finally,
This is Terry Grieg. Terry is is an extraordinary woman who is a marathon runner. She is a swimmer. She is a bicyclist, and she is a woman who was diagnosed some years ago with stage 4 colon cancer, at which point she got her sisters to take colonoscopies. One was diagnosed with cancer as well. They are both doing beautifully, and she and her sisters have taken the cause of promoting awareness of colon cancer in our community and in our nation.
Yeah. Suzie, we may have gotten mixed up in the order there. Was there somebody you left out that you wanted to mention? And if
who was
not,
the
we'll just
first
move
one that
on,
we?
Diane Levine. Diane Levine is being honored in the area of health and education, and she is committed to our community's most vulnerable. That is the homeless and the hungry. Specifically, she has volunteered as a case manager for St. Louis Effort for AIDS, and she's also assisted doorways and has provided services to those with HIV and AIDS.
Okay, good, because I didn't want to leave anybody
Right,
out there, so
yeah.
I'm glad that we did that. Well, one thing they all have in common, and they certainly have diverse backgrounds, don't they? But the one thing they have in common is they give so much of themselves for volunteering. You know, not everybody volunteers.
Mm-hmm. You know, that's such an interesting topic because we, involved in Women of Achievement, recognize the impact, the very strong impact that collectively we've had in volunteering as women, but also individually as reflected with the 10 women. And what we would like to do is promote that specifically with younger people, to have them have the dedication for volunteering to enhance our community.
Is that a hard sell? Do you find that a hard sell?
Well, if you talk about what we get back, we give of ourselves, and some people can give an hour a week, some people can give a day a week, and there are volunteers who volunteer 5 days a week, 7 days a week, but what you get back, the feeling in your heart about helping other people and seeing people smile because you've enabled them to have an education, because you've given them free classes through Craft Alliance, and then these kids go on and they get a scholarship to college, or because you've given them food through a food pantry and you enable them to eat and to be healthy. It's something that is hard to describe because it's just something that you feel, and when people hear about what you do and the feeling that you get,
Right.
I think it's an easy sell if it's the right person. You have to have the time.
Bottom line, it actually makes you feel good to do good things for other people.
Makes you feel
right?
really good.
Alice Handelman, thank you so much, and Suzie Nall, thank you for being here. And when we come back in the second segment, we're going to meet 2 of this year's honorees, but thank you for joining us today to talk
Thank
about
you
women.
very
Thank
much.
you for the opportunity to talk about Women of Achievement.
It's my pleasure. And we'll be back with more right after this.
Kids will spend 15 minutes watching online videos like this one.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes twice a day. They have the time.
Experience St. Louis. Hey!
So, same time next week? Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
The odds of this daughter of a clergyman spending 11 weeks at #1 on the U.S. singles charts? 1 in 19 million. The odds of going on to win 6 Grammy Awards? 1 in 1.4 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 110. I'm Toni Braxton, and I encourage you to learn the signs of autism at autismspeaks.org.
I'm Steve Potter, and welcome back to City Corner. Well, I'd like to introduce you to 2 of this year's Women of Achievement honorees. To my immediate right is Virginia Braxs. We also welcome Dr. Eva Frazer. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Steve.
And congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It's quite an honor. How do you feel about it?
Great. We're humbled, really, by this great honor. And it's an unexpected honor, and we really feel privileged.
Dr. Frazer?
I would agree with Virginia. It's been a wonderful honor, and I think the best part has been being introduced to a number of women who are distinguished leaders in the community, and we have a lot of shared interests.
Yeah, did you happen to know any of them before?
No, not me.
That's interesting. Before we go any further, we had a little technical mix-up, maybe it was a human mix-up in the beginning, and we just want to make that clear. We have a photograph of Diane Mueller, and we may have left her out in the beginning, so we just want to set the record straight. If we could see her photograph, and Dr. Frazer, I know that you have a few things you can tell us about her. She's one of this year's honorees.
Yes, actually Diane is one of the people I have gotten to meet during this time, and she's being honored in the area of family enrichment. She directed her efforts towards injustices and helped start the St. Charles Crisis Nursery. And in addition to that, under her leadership, the St. Louis Crisis Nursery was able to provide 24-hour safe haven for children whose family are undergoing crisis as well.
Very good. We didn't want to leave her out. Thanks for doing that. Let's talk a little bit about each of you. Virginia Braxs, you're on the faculty of Washington University. What's your role there?
I'm a faculty, I'm a lecturer, senior lecturer, teaching Spanish language, art, literature, a little bit of everything.
How long have you been there?
26 years.
26 years?
Yes, a long time.
Have you always been in education?
Yes, all my life.
Now, Dr. Frazer, you're a physician, although you're not currently practicing. What's your background?
Well, I am a physician, and I practiced at BJC Medical Hospital for a number of years in one of their outpatient clinics. I'm also a former member of the University of Missouri Board of Curators, serving from 1985 to 1991. And during that time, I had the opportunity to serve as president of the Board of Curators in 1990 to 91.
Is that a big job?
It's a very big job.
I work for the University of Missouri, so I'm a little interested in this.
Yes, it's a very big job because there are 4 campuses, and if you add extension to that, 5 campuses. So we would go from one campus to another, getting very familiar with the entire system. And obviously, it's a state-run university, land-grant university. So we have a great responsibility to the citizens of the state.
They do a great job. Well, I read both your resumes, and they're very long. So it's almost hard to pick out certain things that I want to ask you about, but I have narrowed it down to a few things. And if there are other things you want to mention, feel free to. Virginia, let me begin with you. You are known for working with the Hispanic community. Obviously, there's a connection there. What's that connection, and what are some of the things you've done?
When I'm originally from Argentina in South America, and I came here 26 years ago, and I immediately identified with the Latino community, and I started working as a volunteer to some of the nonprofit organizations in town, including La Clinica, with which I worked for 15 years. And I really enjoyed it, and I felt that I was able to give them a lot of my experience being also an immigrant.
How large is the Hispanic community here, and has it grown a lot since you moved here 26 years ago?
Yes, absolutely. It has grown a lot, and especially in the last 15 years or so. And it's really hard to say how large, because we have a community with different immigration status, and because of that, it's really hard. but according to the last census, it's 3.5% in the city.
That's a pretty good number, I would say. Dr. Frazer, as a physician, you have advocated for uninsured people and underserved people in the community. So who exactly are we talking about?
We're talking about anybody who doesn't have immediate access to medical care, who's not insured, and may find it difficult or challenging to receive medical care.
Maybe that's more, for those of us with insurance, that's maybe more than we think.
I would say so. We have a large population of people who are uninsured and are not routinely getting preventive health care.
Mm-hmm. You were involved in something called was it the HRC clinic? Some sort of free clinic associated with the university?
Yes, I also served on the board of trustees for St. Louis University, and during that time I became familiar with the students who actually had opened a clinic in North St. Louis about 20 years ago, and they were initially operating in the basement of a church, didn't have air conditioning, didn't have heating, but they really were committed to providing health care to a patient group that was underserved. So they worked in that facility for a number of years, and then they really needed to expand, and so they were looking for a different location, something that would accommodate their needs and their growing population base. So I was contacted by two of those students, Lauren Palmer and Ashley Hagel, in this process. Initially, they just wanted me to identify a particular location for them, but I kind of always had in my own mind that I would like to see them in one of the properties that we owned. But they needed to come to that decision, so I was helping them in their process. Eventually, they came back to me after a year's search, and we were able to relocate them into a building that we operate and own.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, healthcare is such a hot button issue these days, and we won't get into the politics of it, of course. But do you see reason to be hopeful about healthcare for the groups that you've been talking about? Do you think it's getting better? Will it get better?
I think the Affordable Care Act will provide easier access for people who are currently uninsured. I also think that there's been a push towards preventive health care, which has been something I've been very committed to. You know, the effort to teach people about their own health interests and what they can do to prevent some serious diseases.
Virginia, on your side of the coin there, one thing you've been involved in is trying to promote college access for Latino students, regardless of their immigration status. Mm-hmm. Tell me what the problem has been.
Well, in 1996, a group of Latino leaders here in St. Louis created, I was part of that group as well, we created a nonprofit organization called the Hispanic Arts Council of St. Louis, and our goal were twofold: art, to promote art, and also to improve the access to education from immigrant children, especially first-generation Latino students.
So they've had trouble accessing education, is what you're saying?
Yes, and because of the different immigration status, as I mentioned before. Through the Hispanic Arts Council in 2012, we created an initiative, a higher education initiative. It's called Universidad Ya, or College Now. And we started providing workshops for parents, immigrant parents, in Spanish to educate them about the complexities of the higher education system in the U.S., as well as organizing Hispanic college fairs, in which every single college that attended had a Spanish interpreter in their table. So the parents were able to communicate with the schools and ask all the questions, and the process was much easier. That was the first time that was done in St. Louis, and we plan to keep offering those fairs every year. Yeah. And we have seen an increase in students, Latino students, who are finishing high school to access college, which was not there before.
Well, that's got to be the key to success, not, to anyone, including an immigrant population. If you don't have education, boy, you've got your hands tied behind your back.
Absolutely, and we believe also that education, it's not a privilege, it's a right, and regardless immigration status that the kid would have, they should have access to higher education.
Dr. Frazer, your father was a physician.
Yes.
And you were involved in, for those people who don't know anything about the Homer G. Phillips Hospital, do I have my facts right? It was the only hospital at one time in history that served black residents of St. Louis.
It was. From 1937 to 1955, it was the only hospital open to African American patients. It also was one of only 3 hospitals that provided postgraduate training for physicians during that time period. And at one point in time in the 1960s, it was the single institution who had educated for postgraduate education physicians and nurses worldwide. So it's a great legacy in our community, and I think it's something that we often don't remember.
And you both have something in common. You've both been really involved in the arts. You may have each mentioned a little bit about it. Dr. Frazer, both of you have worked with the Regional Arts Commission. Dr. Frazer, I think you may have mentioned St. Louis Art Museum, and Virginia, you've worked with the Sheldon, with like a local theater company, Upstream Theater. Talk a little bit about why you think the arts is important.
For me, art is the great equalizer. We are all humans, and we all understand art. We feel emotions, regardless your class status, your educational background, or where you are from. I think every time that we organize a concert with a very important Latino artist, high-profile Latino artist at the Sheldon, which we do every year, we have a mix of audience, from all the walks of life, and it's beautiful.
We've just got a couple of minutes left, but one thing I want you both to comment on briefly, if you would, is the importance of volunteering. You both are very busy. You both have busy careers. You both have volunteered a lot, so you made a specific effort to do that. So why do you think volunteering is so important? How do you find the time to do it when you're busy making a living?
Well, I think a lot of times you think you're so busy that you can't take something on, but things often don't come to you all at once. You just take one step and just open a door and make the time for one thing, and you'll find that you'll find a network of people who are also involved and have shared interests and can support that. And I think I would go back to really what Alice said, is it's hard to identify that feeling that you get inside. I think it's probably like the runner's high. I've never run enough to actually get that runner's high.
You got the volunteer high.
Right, exactly. So when you volunteer, it's pretty immediate. It's very rewarding. Yes. You get a great deal back, far more than you give.
Just briefly.
And you learn life lessons through volunteering, and you become a better person. You have a better perspective of life.
Well, Virginia Braxs and Dr. Eva Frazer, we want to congratulate you for being 2 of the Women of Achievement honorees this year. And I know you recently had a luncheon and all the rest of that, and I guess you'll have a busy year representing the Women of Achievement and achieving more. More volunteering on the horizon?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for being here. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
I'm Steve Potter. If you'd like to know more about Women of Achievement, we'll have a link, or we'll have the information about their website coming up on the screen. So thanks for being a part of this edition of City Corner. We'll see you next time. Bye.